I am particularly pleased to have over 160 high school students and teachers here from across our state. Now, that is new this year. That's never happened. That is new this year because I thought it was particularly important to extend an invitation for this event to our next generation of Minnesota voters and leaders. We today are about to witness history in the making. This afternoon, 49 other states and the District of Columbia are doing exactly what we are doing right now. Today, Minnesota is going to officially cast its 10 Electoral College votes for the next president and vice president of the United States. As many of you know, there are 538 electors nationwide. I have to ask the folks in the back of the room, we all respect your right to express your opinion, but we do have, as I said, a legally mandated process to go through. Thank you for lending your voice to the proceedings. It takes a majority or 270 electors to win the presidency, and we in Minnesota will cast 10 of those electoral votes. Now, the Constitution, as you probably know from your civics class, the Constitution created the Electoral College, but the Constitution is silent. The Constitution is silent as to how each state chooses to allocate its electoral votes. Minnesota long ago chose to do what 47 other states already do. That is to say, we allocate all of our state's electoral votes to the winner of the statewide popular vote. That's how we do it. That's how 47 other states do it. But not all states use that method. 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, allocate their electoral votes according to which candidate wins each congressional district in their state. This allows states to split their electoral votes amongst different candidates. Now, some people have suggested that more states move to the Maine and Nebraska model. Others have suggested a move to the national popular vote model, by which states would agree to award their electoral votes to the overall winner of the national popular vote instead of to the winner of the popular vote in that particular state. And then, of course, there are others who want to abolish the Electoral College entirely. Now, whether we as Americans or we as Minnesotans wish to change the way that we select future presidents and vice presidents will be an ongoing subject of debate. But our law in Minnesota today is clear, and today we honor that law. Of course, today's event comes after a long national election campaign, and I think many in this room would agree that it was a particularly significant campaign, and it was uniquely intense.
With foreign infiltration.
The incumbent president was term limited, so we knew we were going to elect a new president no matter what, and there was another factor at play, and let's be honest. We had 2 major party nominees who inspired very strong feelings. That's just a fact. Now, that kind of intensity, those strong feelings, that can lead to opposite kinds of results. So sometimes that kind of intensity can depress voter turnout because voters may feel overwhelmed or disillusioned or even disgusted. But sometimes that kind of intensity leads to higher voter turnout because voters feel an urgency to act or to make their voices heard. And in Minnesota, we chose action. We chose to turn out to vote in very high numbers, and we made history in the process. Now, let me just tell you a few of the ways that Minnesotans made history this year. More Minnesotans than ever before, over 670,000, cast their ballots early by voting absentee thanks to a new law called No Excuses Absentee Voting, which allows anyone to vote early for any reason. And I know there are a lot of people in this room who were involved, as was I when I was in the legislature, in getting that legislation passed on a bipartisan basis. More Minnesotans than ever before were registered to vote on Election Day, thanks to a new law that allows people to register to vote online. More Minnesotans than ever before cast a general election ballot. Nearly 3 million people in Minnesota, a record. And lastly, my personal favorite. But first, some background. Many of you know that Minnesota has an outstanding history of high voter turnout. In fact, for 9 elections in a row, Minnesota was #1 in the country in voter turnout until 2014, until 2 years ago. After a winning streak of #1s, in 2014, we slipped a bit to #6 in the country. Now, the #6 spot was still decent, right? If you're grading on a curve, 6 out of 50, not bad. But not quite up to our usual high Minnesota standards. So, during the past year, my office challenged Minnesotans to get us back to #1. Thousands of partners throughout the state worked to reach that goal. And in my office, we approached voter engagement in a fundamentally different way. We tried new approaches, we took advantage of the new laws that I mentioned, and we reached out to new communities. And I'm happy to say that when the ballots were counted in all the states on November 8th, Minnesota was again #1 in the country in voter turnout. 74.7% of all eligible Minnesotans voted in this year's election. Now, being #1 in America is saying something, and that should make us proud. We set a goal, and we reached it. But more importantly than that, we set an example for other states and for people in our own state, like many of you, who are not yet eligible to vote, but who will one day be eligible to vote, perhaps in the next couple of years. Now, we can stay on top, and we can lead the way for America if we step up, stand up, and commit to being voters. Let's recognize all the people right now throughout Minnesota who helped get Minnesota back to #1 in voter turnout. Now, later on in this ceremony, I'll highlight the important role that high school students and education leaders played in making 2016 a successful election season in Minnesota. But for now, let's proceed with the official business of this assembly. We will now proceed to the roll call of electors. Before beginning the roll call, let the record show that in accordance with Minnesota Statute Section 208.06, the presidential electors met at the Legislative Reference Library in the State Office Building yesterday morning and notified the governor that they were ready to fulfill their duties as electors. The electors were then provided with a certificate listing the names of all the electors and all the alternates. I will now proceed to the roll call of electors in the order of congressional district. Electors, please respond by saying the word present when your name is called. Congressional District 1, Fred Knutson.
Present.
Congressional District 2, Roger Gerke.
Present.
Congressional District 3, Marge Hoffa.
Present.
Congressional District 4, Raymond Hess.
Present.
Congressional District 5, Muhammad Abdurrahman.
Present.
Congressional District 6, Betsy O'Berry.
Present.
Congressional District 7, Mike Wammer.
Present.
Congressional District 8, Mary Murphy.
Present.
State at Large, Jules Goldstein.
Present.
State at Large, Sherry Pugh.
Present.
The roll call shows that all 10 electors are present. Let the record also show that in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 208.06, the alternate presidential electors met at the Legislative Reference Library in the State Office Building yesterday morning and notified the governor that they were ready to fulfill their duties as alternate electors. The alternate electors were then provided with a certificate listing the names of all the alternate electors. I will now proceed to the roll call of alternate electors in the order of congressional district. As before, please respond with the word present and stand if you are able when your name is called. Congressional District 1, Linda Wunderlich.
Present.
Congressional District 2, Roxanne Mindeman.
Present.
Congressional District 3, James Williams.
Present.
Congressional District 4, Megan Thomas. Ms. Thomas has informed us that she will not be present this afternoon. Congressional District 5, Jill Garcia.
Present.
Congressional District 6, Mel Honorud. Congressional District 7, Lillian Ortendahl. Congressional District 8, Jim Nardone.
Present.
State at Large, Joel Heller.
Present.
State at Large, Artis Wexler.
Present.
The roll call shows that 9 of the 10 alternate electors are present. On December 13th, 2016, Governor Dayton signed a document entitled the Certificate of Ascertainment. This certificate sets forth the official and final results of the votes cast for all presidential electors and alternate electors. 3 copies of the certificate have been forwarded to the Archivist of the United States and were received by that official before today as required under federal law. Federal law also requires my office to deliver 6 additional copies of the certificate to you today so that we can attach copies of this document to another certificate that will set forth the results of the presidential and vice presidential ballots that you will cast later today. I have also been advised that these 6 copies of the certificate of ascertainment are present here in this chamber for your inspection. The certificate of ascertainment lists the official election returns for all presidential candidates who received votes in Minnesota and has particular significance for our work here today. It has a special place in this process in that it reflects the will of all the voters of Minnesota who participated in the presidential election. Gary Poser, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections from the Office of the Minnesota Secretary of State Elections Division, will read these official vote totals before we proceed. Mr. Poser.
The returns of the votes cast for presidential electors at the general election were canvassed and certified by the State Canvassing Board on the 29th day of November 2016 in accordance with the laws of the state of Minnesota, and that the candidates receiving votes for presidential elector and the number of votes cast for each such candidate at the general election is as follows. The electors pledged to Richard Duncan and Ricky Johnson, declared write-in candidates, received 1 vote. The electors pledged to Eric Gerhard and Ken Vernig, declared write-in candidates, received 1 vote. The electors pledged to Darren Lynch and Jackie Dukowitz, declared write-in candidates, received 1 vote. The electors pledged to Matthew Roberts and Charles Kloss, declared write-in candidates, received 1 vote. The electors pledged to Platt Robertson and Scott Falls, declared write-in candidates, received 1 vote. The electors pledged to Derek Schumacher and Ross Wendling, declared write-in candidates, received 1 vote. The electors pledged to Keith Richard Snell and Russell LeBeau, declared write-in candidates, received 1 vote. The electors pledged to Ben Hartnell and Dave Marshall, declared write-in candidates, received 2 votes. The electors pledged to Roger Koplitz and John Carey, declared write-in candidates, received 2 votes. The electors pledged to Srinivasa K. Malapati and Sripriya Malapati, declared write-in candidates, received 2 votes. The electors pledged to Micah Payur and Joshua Payur, declared write-in candidates, received 2 votes. The electors pledged to Michael L. Mike Smith and Daniel White, declared write-in candidates, received 3 votes. The electors pledged to Joe Schreiner and Joe Moreau, declared write-in candidates, received 4 votes. The electors pledged to Arthur E. Sidner and Sandra Arcement, declared write-in candidates, received 4 votes. The electors pledged to Kirk Wettrek and Lori Motzko, declared write-in candidates, received 4 votes. The electors pledged to Jerome S. White, Jerry White, and Niles Namuth, declared write-in candidates, received 10 votes. The electors pledged to Gloria LaRiva and Eugene Puryear, declared write-in candidates, received 12 votes. The electors pledged to Clifton Roberts and Breeze Harper, declared write-in candidates, received 15 votes. The electors pledged to Emidio Solstick and Angela Walker, declared write-in candidates, received 15 votes. The electors pledged to Lawrence Kotlikoff and Edward Leamer, declared write-in candidates, received 17 votes. The electors pledged to Dennis Andrew Ball and Richard Sanders, declared write-in candidates, received 24 votes. The electors pledged to Tom Heffling and Steve Schulin, declared write-in candidates, received 28 votes. The electors pledged to Daniel Muffaletto and Jesse Ventura, declared write-in candidates, received 29 votes. The electors pledged to Chris Keniston and Deacon Taylor, declared write-in candidates, received 31 votes. The electors pledged to Henry Bartlett and Condoleezza Rice, declared write-in candidates, received 41 votes. The electors pledged to Jeffrey Ryan Wharton Sr. and Amy Klobuchar, declared write-in candidates, received 53 votes. The electors pledged to Michael Andrew Maturin and Juan Antonio Munoz, declared write-in candidates, received 244 votes. The electors pledged to Roque de la Fuente and Michael Steinberg, American Delta Party, received 1,431 votes. The electors pledged to Allison Kennedy and Osborne Hart, Socialist Workers' Party, received 1,672 votes. The electors pledged to Darrell Castle and Scott Bradley, Constitution Party, received 9,456 votes. The electors pledged to Dan R. Vasek and Mark Elworth Jr., Legal Marijuana Now, received 11,291 votes. The electors pledged to Jill Stein and Howie Hawkins, Green Party, received 36,985 votes. The electors pledged to Evan McMullen and Nathan Johnson, Independents, received 53,076 votes. The electors pledged to Gary Johnson and William Weld, Libertarian Party, received 112,972 votes. The electors pledged to Donald J. Trump and Michael R. Pence, Republican Party of Minnesota, received 1,322,951 votes. The electors pledged to Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine, Democratic Farmer Labor, received 1,367,716 votes. Having received the most votes cast in Minnesota, the electors and alternate electors pledged to Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine have been designated by the Certificate of Ascertainment as presidential electors and alternate electors for the state of Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Poser. All electors are present, which constitutes a quorum. Electors, please rise if you are able and remain standing for the administration of your oath. The written oath is on the table in front of each elector. Please raise your right hand, and after I say "I," please state your name and then continue to repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that I will discharge faithfully my duties as elector for President and Vice President of the United States, in and for the state of Minnesota, to the best of my judgment and ability. Please be seated. Please be seated. The written oath is in front of you for your signatures. Please sign this document now, and our staff will notarize your signatures and collect the documents. Thank you, electors. As required by state law, your signed oath will be placed on file in my office. We will now proceed to the balloting for President and Vice President of the United States. Under the 12th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, a distinct ballot must be taken for President and a distinct ballot taken for Vice President. I will now ask that one blank ballot for President and one blank ballot for Vice President be distributed to each elector. When you've received your ballots, please cast your votes. After completing your ballot, please hold them until I call upon you. If you make a mistake and spoil your ballot, please raise your hand and we'll provide a replacement ballot.
I think those ballots are already spoiled.
Do you have enough information about the input to wash out on this election before you cast this ballot?
Easier just to vote and forget about it?
Federalist Papers number 68 planned for this. Right.
Don't have to vote. How will you remember this day? How will you remember this choice? Will you be proud to participate in this?
Right now, we can make some history here this morning. We don't have to certify this.
They always tell us one vote matters. Every vote matters.
Yours actually does.
Don't do it. Please.
Ask for the intelligence briefing.
Get all the facts first. You have the power to make history today.
I will now call upon each elector in order of congressional district to please approach the podium, stand to my right, and show me your ballots. Congressional District 1, Fred Knudsen. Mr. Knudsen has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you, sir. You may return to your seat. Congressional District 2, Roger Gehrke.
Mr. Garrity, please do not vote.
Mr. Gehrke has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat. Congressional District 3, Marge Hoffa.
Hoffa, please do not vote.
Ms. Hoffa has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat. Thank you. Congressional District 4, Raymond Hess.
Mr. Hess, please do not vote.
Mr. Hess has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat. Congressional District 5, Muhammad Abdurrahman.
Are we making history?
Ladies and gentlemen, under Minnesota law, we have what is known as a faithless elector law, which prohibits any elector from voting for a candidate other than the candidate, either for president or vice president, to which that elector is pledged. The consequence for voting for someone to whom that person is not pledged is simply removal of that elector as an elector and putting in that person's place instead the designated alternate elector. So pursuant to Minnesota law, Minnesota statute, I will do that right now. And I have conferred with Mr. Abdurrahman, and he understands that that is the consequence. of his actions. So this ballot, these ballots for President of the United States and for Vice President of the United States will not be counted. So instead, at this moment, I will now officially appoint the alternate elector for Congressional District 5. And sir, you may be seated. Thank you. Thank you. The alternate elector for Congressional District 5 is Jill Garcia. Ms. Garcia, actually, I would ask then if you could just substitute, please. Thank you. And Ms. Garcia, I would ask that you stand, please, if you're able, and raise your right hand. And after I ask you, just say your name at the beginning. After I say I, just state your name and then continue to repeat after me. I,
Jill Garcia,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will affirm the Constitution of the United States,
It's support the Constitution.
support the Constitution of the United States,
And the Constitution of the State of Minnesota.
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
And that I will discharge faithfully
and that I will discharge faithfully
my duties as elector
my duties as elector
for President and Vice President of the United States
for President and Vice President of the United States,
in and for the State of Minnesota
in and for the State of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Okay. I believe that Mr. Burt Black has handed out a ballot for President. Oh, I'm sorry. No. You must sign the oath, as the other electors have, and then it will be notarized. Ladies and gentlemen, what I will do as our newly sworn-in elector, Ms. Garcia, is casting her ballots, is I will continue in the same order that we had been in before the interruption. So I will continue now with Congressional District 6, Betsy O'Berry.
Ms. O'Barry, you do not need to vote.
Ms. O'Berry has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat. Congressional District 7, Mike Wammer.
Mr. Warren, please, do not vote. Please, sir.
Mr. Wammer has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you, sir. You may return to your seat. Congressional District 8, Mary Murphy.
Ms. Murphy, please, do not vote.
Ms. Murphy has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
State at Large, Jules Goldstein.
Mr. Goldstein, please, not vote.
Yes, I fulfill a promise I made to Jackie Stevenson.
Mr. Goldstein has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat. State at Large, Sherry Pugh.
Ms. Pugh, please, not vote.
In honor of my mother, Orlando Pugh, and my grandmother, Laura Smith.
Ms. Pugh has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat. Then we'll go back to. We will now revert to Congressional District 5, Jill Garcia.
Garcia, please, not vote.
Ms. Garcia has cast a vote for Hillary Clinton for president and a vote for Tim Kaine for vice president. Thank you. You may return to your seat. Okay. The results of the ballot show 10 votes for president for Hillary Clinton of the state of New York and 10 votes for vice president for Tim Kaine of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Federal law requires that the electors sign 6 originals of a certificate which sets forth the votes cast by the electors for president and vice president. I will now ask that those certificates of vote be distributed for your signatures. I'm told, ladies and gentlemen, that because of the change in proceedings, we need a short pause so that we may modify a number of the documents accordingly. So we will have a short pause. Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to resume the assembly. We are resuming the assembly. I will repeat again that federal law requires that the electors sign 6 originals of a certificate which sets forth the votes cast by the electors for president and vice president. I will now ask that these certificates of vote be distributed for the electors' signatures. Federal law also requires that an original copy of the certificate of ascertainment be attached to each copy of the certificate of vote, and I will direct that this be done after you have affixed your signatures, which you have. We will now proceed to complete the final document required today, the transmittal of the presidential elector vote. Federal law also requires that the electors sign 6 originals of a certificate transmitting the results of the ballot cast today. I now ask that these documents be distributed for signatures. Please sign the certificate above your name, and the staff will collect them after you are finished. These original documents are distributed to several offices. One copy is mailed directly to the President of the United States Senate. 2 copies are mailed to the Archivist of the United States. 2 copies are filed with the Office of the Secretary of State. 1 copy is mailed to Judge John R. Thunheim, Chief Judge for the Federal District Court for this district. The presidential and vice presidential business of this assembly has now concluded, but we're not done with this ceremony quite yet. As I mentioned earlier, Minnesota owes a special thanks to its education leaders and its high school students, including those of you here today. This past year, my office looked at new strategies in an effort to help get Minnesota back to #1 in voter turnout, and we decided to focus on areas where we knew there was room to improve or room to grow. And one of those areas was among our youngest voters, who traditionally vote at rates that are far behind the rest of the population. So we knew that we needed to get good habits started early, to get young people thinking of themselves as voters before they actually were voters and eligible to vote. So we came up with the idea of holding Minnesota's first ever statewide mock election for high school students. The idea was that we would limit it to just one contest, President and Vice President of the United States, and we called it simply Students Vote 2016. We convened a group of education leaders from around the state to discuss whether the idea could work. Support from the group was unanimous and enthusiastic, but one person from that group distinguished himself in his support for the new initiative. David Adney is the executive director of the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals. He attended that initial meeting, but he did a lot more. He was committed to making Students Vote 2016 a success. He advised us about how to structure the program, how to reach out to schools across Minnesota, and even how to promote the initiative. We followed his advice, and we benefited from his own personal outreach to schools. Now, when we first came up with the idea of Students Vote 2016, we set a goal of signing up 100 high schools across Minnesota, 100. But with Dave's help and encouragement, we signed up 281 high schools across the state of Minnesota. While Mr. Adney helped us to sign up schools, the students of Minnesota really delivered. Over 96,000 high school students voted in the mock election for president and vice president. All of the high school students here participated in some way. Some of you held debates or discussions about the candidates in your school. Some of you were involved in the technical part of running the mock election at your school. All of you made the Students Vote 2016 initiative a huge success. And I hope in the process, all of you were inspired about the years ahead when you will be able to cast your official vote as an adult. To demonstrate the appreciation of my office for their efforts to help get good habits started early in our high school students, I'm proud today to give the highest honor that a Secretary of State can award. It's called the Medallion Award from the National Association of Secretaries of State. The Medallion Award recognizes outstanding achievements in areas like elections and civic education. So it is my honor today to present 2016 Medallion Awards from the National Association of Secretaries of State to David Adney of the Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals, and a Medallion Award to the students of Minnesota, represented here today by Brooke Chesley of Marshall High School, President of the Minnesota Association of Student Councils. Please come up to receive your Medallion Awards and your well-deserved congratulations. I want to thank everyone for being here and participating in this 40th Assembly of the Electoral College of Minnesota. Our activities today have continued a long tradition of electoral politics. We have conducted an important constitutional function, but we have also conducted an important cultural function as well, by showing our commitment to the peaceful transition of power. In too much of the world, a change in government comes only through force, but we Americans don't do that. We have our differences, of course, but we're committed to the rule of law. Whether we agree or disagree with the outcome that the laws have produced, we respect and honor that outcome nonetheless. Again, I want to thank the Minnesota State Patrol Honor Guard, Imam Makram El-Amin and Rabbi Sim Glazer, Minnesota National Guard Sergeant Munfram, Pledge of Allegiance leader Sophia Peterson, the electors and all electors, and of course, the voters of Minnesota. To all the students here today, and there are many of you, thanks especially to you for coming. Democracy is in your hands now, and you will soon shape your community, your state, and your country by exercising your right to vote. Please don't take that right for granted. Please don't. Your vote is your voice, and as some have said, failure to vote is not an act of rebellion, it is an act of surrender. When you're eligible to vote, stand up, step up, and be a voter. Thank you all. May God bless the great state of Minnesota and the United States of America. If there's no further business to come before this assembly, I would entertain a motion from one of the electors for adjournment sine die. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and second. A motion to adjourn having been made and seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. This meeting is adjourned. Please.